host, Tyler Carter. I am doing a solo show tonight, so thank you everyone who is tuning in. Sorry about that. Um, I slept a little bit over time, so I know there's supposed to be an earlier show at 6. So I apologize about that. We will be starting on time on Thursday. But yeah, um, this is tonight's show. One of the things that we're going to be talking about today, I wanted to do a fun episode today, but one of the things I wanted to talk about was the Big 12 meetings and what was basically said in those meetings, especially for football purposes. So, in the Big 12 meetings, um, basically, we came down to what is going to happen for the 2026 season with the college football playoff. It looks like um, the all of the Big 12 commissioners and administrators are going to be are in favor of a 5 plus 11 model. Now, there. I mean, if you really look at it, there is a this could be a double edged sword. Reason why it could be a double edged sword is because, like, with 5 plus 11, I mean, if you're looking at it from a perspective of being the pessimist, is that like even with this model, uh, this could still favor the SEC greatly. Um, SEC this could even benefit them more than the 4-4-2-2-1-1-3 model they're talking about. Um, with even with the three at largest, with this having 11 at large bids, this could possibly give them more of a chance. And if you're looking at this from perspective for the Big 12, in the Big 12 best interest, this probably, if you're looking at it from this perspective, probably not the best chance for the Big 12. But if you look at it from a spear of the college football perspective, this is probably the best thing to happen for college football. Because I mean, think about the 4-4-2-2-1-1. Like you would be basically having in 1 year, depending on who had a better year, 7 or 6 SEC or Big Ten teams in the playoff, which would dilute the product and would turn people away. With this, hopefully, this will bring more of a balance to it. Um, so I think in that sense, like for college football purposes, it's gonna bring more definitely more of a balanced product. So that and you know and in my eyes, I think this is going to be good for the Big 12. Because even if you look back at a year like last year in the Big 12, um, in this instance, BYU would have been in. BYU had a fantastic season last year at 10-2. Um, but so um, they would have gotten in that sense, and the Big 12 would have had 3 teams in. So thank you. All right, so I mean, with that, like the Big 12 is probably going to have at least 2 or 3 um, bids for the playoff. Now, with that being said, I mean, in this one, and in this how this pertains to Iowa State, I think this helps Iowa State in a football sense. Even with last year, who knows with last year? Because last year, even though we won a school record 11 games, this team was decimated, decimated by injuries. So who knows? But I think. Um, at least going along for the long term, I think this is going to be a good thing for the Big 12. Um, but I'd love to hear and see what you guys think. But so I think I'm going to make a poll um, at the end of the show to let y'all know, to ask you guys what you guys think, because I'd love to hear our our fans and everyone else on this matter. So with that, um, we're gonna go into, of course, the main thing in the Iowa State sports world right now. We have the Pacers to the NBA Finals. So we have, as you guys know, um, the Indiana Pacers are in the NBA Finals. Thanks and goodness to Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton has been on a run. He's been a heater, and I mean, everybody's like, "Well, man, where did this come from?" I think a lot of the motivation, if you remember that list that came out earlier, or I think right before the playoffs, there was a list that's called him the most overrated player in the NBA, and I think that lit a fire under him, um, and it really caused him to play at a different level. And at least in his NBA career, this is the best we've seen him play in probably ever. And this is probably going to be one of the most memorable runs. I'd love to see him. Um, I'd love to see him finish and then the NBA Finals with a, he should have won Eastern Conference Finals MVP, but I don't know. I feel like that was. I mean, Pascal Siakam is a great player. I just feel like I feel like Tyrese had more of an impact, but I guess if you look at it from that way, Pascal Siakam, this doesn't take away from Pascal Siakam, but I mean, you look at that and it's like, man, you wish that he would have won that. But here, we're gonna go deeper into this game. Let's look at the uh, stats from that game because that will tell more of a story. Mm-mm-mm. 1 second, guys. Da, da, da. Okay. All right. So we're gonna take a look at the box score of this game, and that will tell more of a story of what really happened in this game. All right. 1 second. Screen. All right. Here we go. So we're gonna look down at Indiana at their the box score right here. So Tyrese Halliburton came into this game. He had a pretty efficient game. He had 21, 21 points, 13 assists, and 6 rebounds. So a very solid night. 9 of 17, 2 of 5 from three. Hit a clutch three at the end to put up the Pacers up by 20 at the end. Although Pascal Siakam led the way with 31 points, 31 points, 3 blocks, and five rebounds, or I'll say 10 rebounds, 31 and 10. So he had a great game. Um, and this is going to be an interesting matchup, I think, in the finals. We're going to take a look at that in that perspective because there I believe there's do believe that there is an Iowa State connection in this. Um, so in a sense, if you look at the way Oklahoma City plays, Oklahoma City's defensive intensity, in a sense, is sort of like a hopped up version of the way Iowa State plays intense defense. They like they jump for loose balls. Uh, they they play great defense. They block, um, and then they have and then they have the MVP. So it's going to be a battle versus a top defense versus top offense. And it's been said that this has probably been the best. Oklahoma City has probably been one of the best defensive teams in the playoffs, probably since the 2004 Pistons. And if you remember, that 2004 Pistons team just took the Lakers to town in that, and they won that in 5 games. I do think though that Indiana runs 10 deep, so this should be a interesting matchup because Indiana has tons of depth on their bench. So this should be a matchup between defense and offense, which I think just if you're a casual viewer, you enjoy. And now I know, if you are not really one of these fans and you're an NBA fan, you're probably gonna be like, oh, this is gonna be so boring. These are two small market teams. I get that sentiment. Like, well, it's not gonna do good ratings wise. You may be right, but I mean, for me, I don't really care about the big markets being in here. I care about if it's good basketball or not. So I think if you're really looking for good basketball, I think this is going to be a finals that you should be tuned in and glued into. So in that sense, just now we're going to look at this from just an Iowa State's perspective. I mean, I think you look at this, you've seen that there's been two other Cyclones that have made it to an NBA Finals. You have Taylor Horton Tucker, who was on the COVID bubble Lakers team that won in 2020, and I want to say Monte Morris was on that Nuggets team, but I have to look and see. Let me check that out real quick. But I believe that those are the two right now, besides Tyrese. But I need to check. I need to fact check that real quick. Um, but I mean, just in this sense, in effect, in Iowa State history, with Tyrese in this NBA Finals run, and um, Brock playing in the Super Bowl about almost 2 seasons ago now, and him getting that monster contract. I think this is probably the best run that Iowa State has had just in pro sports from a pro sports standpoint. Like you see the football team now constantly putting in uh, multiple draft picks every single year now. You see Tyrese in the NBA, George Niang in the NBA. He was a guy on the Cavs, and sure think what that Cavs team would be. Felt like he was the missing piece in that series against Indiana, and they let him go. I believe at the trade deadline. So, and the fact that Tyrese has a chance to be maybe become a megastar after this. Although it seems like NBA in every circles, it seems like he's a villain. But man, I mean, we got to enjoy this, Cyclone fans, because I mean, this is probably the best. Like I said earlier, the best run we've had NBA wise, and I think this couldn't do nothing but help basketball recruiting. Even though obviously Tyrese didn't play for TJ, but like this in a sense, when you see when you're like a young kid and you see a guy that played here leading his team to the finals, you'd be a young guy be like, hey, I can do that. hey, maybe that could be, Jamarian Bateman or somebody. But hey, who knows? Who knows? We'll have to see. But this has been an excellent run, and just as a fan of a team in the Central Conference of the Bulls, just still, I have been fully on the Pacers bandwagon, and I definitely will be cheering for them in the NBA Finals. So with that being said, um, we're actually going to move on, and I wanted to do a more of a fun episode today. Um, I'm going to do uh, a poll, or at least a thing for me. It seems like, at least when you look at like a lot of these shows for podcasts in summertime, it's really like a lot of like a lot of these different lists. Um, so I know we've seen top logos, um, coaching, stadium rankings, games I've seen of all time. So I think for me, here's my number five game of all time. My number five game of all time is Cyhawk 2011. Now, when you remember, this game for me was key in my early in my early Iowa State fandom, because this was my second game ever all time of being an Iowa State fan. As many of you know, if you've talked to me on Twitter or if you know me personally, you know that I grew up a Florida Gators fan, and that even the time that I was still at the time I was there, I still watched Florida religiously. But like becoming an Iowa State fan and really really embracing it, um, and we had and the game previous, if you remember the my cyclone historians there, if you remember the game previous in the first game, we had to come back and rally against UNI, and we won that game 20-19. So, but this game was just had absolute action from the start. Like it was nonstop scoring. Then this game went into overtime. There was a few fourth downs where Steel Jans made amazing play to Darius Darks and Reynolds. And I mean James White had a great game. Aaron Horn had a great game. Chantrell Johnson had a great game in this game. And just the fact that we were able to win this in triple overtime with James White getting into the end zone, win that game 44-41, and running onto the field. I think that, for me, that is a top five game for me all time. So I think that's going to be number five for me. Um, Number four for me is definitely going to be. I didn't. I Obviously this is going to be a mix of games that I've watched and also games that I've attended. So these are gonna. It's gonna be an interesting list. Uh, so my number four game of all time is going to be 2015 basketball versus Oklahoma. Now, if you remember in this season, um, this basketball team was great. Unfortunately, you guys remember the ending of this year of them losing in the first round of the UAE, but they had so many games in this season where they had a monster comebacks to come back and win games. And they were down at 22, I believe, at one point, and they went on that insane run in the second half to take the lead. And I think in that game, that was the loudest that I have ever seen, that I've ever heard of Hilton Coliseum. Um, so I think, and that catapulted them, and this was near the end of the season, and this catapulted them in the Big 12 tournament, and this had them win back-to-back tournament titles in Kansas City, beating Baylor in the title game. So I think this one is holds near and dear to me. And number three for me is also another basketball one. Um, the other basketball one for me is going to be 2014 against Oklahoma State. Now, if you guys remember that one, I mean, if you guys remember that game right there is I think, man, that 2013-14 year, spectacular year. I believe Iowa State won 30 games that year. Fortunately, this was injury ridden. Fortunately, this is the year that George Niang got hurt, and I believe this is to this day, this is probably the biggest what if season in Iowa State history. I think probably besides this previous year. Um, but this is a year I think where they truly could have made a run. But anyways, we're gonna talk about the end of the game sequence. Phil Forte, if you remember him, he was at the line. Uh, at the end of the game, hit one of two free throws, and Naslong came down the court, and the time was going down. Clock hit zero. He went up and drained that shot to take it into overtime. Remember, he also did something in the same thing when they were at Gallagher Iowa earlier in the season. So they hit that, and um, they were able to pull away at the end in overtime and win that game. And that for me was just a spectacular game. I mean, that to me just etches in my mind with one of the top games of the 2013-14 season. I think that's the top game for me of that season, and it really just puts a bow on the what if the Cyclones could have made a a Final Four run, and they ended up losing to the eventual national champions UConn in that. My number two game of all time is the Brock Purdy start against Oklahoma State. So you guys remember um, in 2018 we started Kyle Kim's. Kyle Kim ended up getting hurt. Well, no, yes, Kyle Kim ended up getting hurt, and that put in you enter in Zeb Nolan, um, who looked amazing in that Oklahoma game. And then, as you know, Hakeem Butler went off in that game. It was insane. We still ended up losing that game by 10. And then, you know, uh, Calcum goes out early in the Iowa game, and we struggle on offense in that game. And then, the next week uh, we put in Zeb Nolan. He struggles in that game against Iowa. We started him against OU, looks amazing, and then he just ended up just struggling in that TCU game the week after, and this offense needed a boost, and in comes freshman Brock Purdy, and at that point, Iowa State was 1-3. So I mean, you look at that and you're like, man, where is this season gonna go? Because this season easily could have been lost, and you enter in freshman Brock Purdy, and I mean, you remember that first touchdown where he throws it off of his back foot, and um, Hakeem Butler catches it in the back of the end zone. Man, that was insane. And he went off in that game. I think for like 350 and four touchdowns. Tyreek Milton had a huge game. I think he had two touchdowns in that game. So I mean, and this begins a reeling off, I believe, of four straight wins because they beat Oklahoma, or they beat West Virginia next week. A top 10 West Virginia at that. I beat them 30-14, and that was the debut of the black jerseys, and also the debut of the Juicy Wiggle. So that was a historic night in itself. Um, and this will lead in, and then we ended, and this ends up going in our good starts going and starting Matt Campbell's good fortunes against K State, because you remember 2018 was the final season for the Vampire Bill Snyder, and it looked like, if you guys remember, in that 2018 season they got up 38-21. Kansas State was 5-6 at this point, but we, for some reason, we just could not stop them. We got a stop, and at the end, and we got to stop while we came down and scored 38-28. And you remember, I Bleav it was shoot, oh yeah, it was Jake Hummel, sack fumble, and I Bleav Mike Rose ran it in, made it 38-35. We were able to get another stop. David Montgomery ran it in, and it was 38-35 on the scoop and score. And then on the next drive, we stop them again, and then David Montgomery goes in to put it in, make it 42-38. And that final drive, we uh, we end up holding them, and we end up winning that game 42-38. And we end that season 8-5, which is a great year. We go 7-2 at the end of the season, which was an absolutely amazing thing. We end up in the Alamo Bowl against Washington State in a very, very exciting bowl game. Long story short, Brock Purdy goes 3-1 and against Kansas State in his career, and he becomes the best quarterback in Iowa State history. And also, you know, now you see, fast forward to now, he's a $50 million quarterback in the NFL. San Francisco took a chance on him 2022. He came in and absolutely killed it. Took them to two straight NFC championships and a Super Bowl appearance. And he has just much more to go. So congrats to Brock Purdy, even though you played for the 49ers, but I'm proud of you, Brock. And I mean, this one may be surprising to everybody. You would think that this one would be obvious for my number one game, but this one is near and dear to my heart, because this one was this one made up for the game that I would have said, um but this one is near and dear to my heart for the number one game of all time for me. um Man, we got to talk about the atmosphere with 2021 football against Oklahoma State. So everybody remembers the 2021 season, from the 2021 season at Oklahoma State. As that being a disappointing season where we went 7-5, and coming off of that 2020 season where we won the Fiesta Bowl, a lot of people ended up being disappointed in that year. I know I remember end up being disappointed in that game, and then remember where we were black against Iowa. We lost that game 21-10. We barely won that game against UNI, and really just expectations were not met in that year. But there were a few bright spots in this game. The Bruce Hall 75-yard touchdown to open the game against K State beat them easily. But this game right here, man, I mean, this game was intense from the start. This was a top 10 ranked Oklahoma State team coming in, and it just seems like every time we play with Oklahoma State, when Oklahoma State has something on the line, we always ruin their season. Um, and in fact, in this year, Oklahoma State ruined their own season by not being able to get into the end zone against Baylor on fourth down in the Big 12 title game. But and of course, my number one game would have been 2011 versus Oklahoma State. Unfortunately, the story in that one is I could not for the life of me find a ride back home find a ride back home, and I found out from all my friends, oh, I would have given you a ride back home, and I'm like, thanks guys, thanks for that. So 2021 football for Oklahoma State is definitely the number one game for me. Um, so I'm going to put this up as a poll too, and see if any of you guys had the same ones as me, or maybe put in your own top five. Games that you've seen in history. I love talking to different ages of Cyclone fans. So I'd love to see your top five. I'll put it on the page as soon as we are done here. But to end the show, obviously we're gonna give a shout out to our um, sponsor, my bookie. Obviously, with my bookie, we're gonna go to my book right now and see what type of promos that they have, because I'm pretty sure that they have good promos right now, especially for baseball and the NBA finals. So let's take a look at that. All right, 1 second, guys. All right, so we're gonna look right now at the live bet at the sports book right now, and here let's take a look at the NBA right now. So here right now we are. This is for game one of the NBA Finals, which starts on Thursday. Um, Oklahoma City right now in game one is minus 417. So Indiana has pretty good in their odds right now at plus 296 to win game one, and they are a 9 point underdog in this game. So this is going to be an interesting matchup. We also have, if you are interested in the Stanley Cup, we also have Stanley Cup action starting on Wednesday, game one. We have the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers for the second year in a row. The spread for this is 1.5 points. Edmonton is a 1.5 point favorite, a 1.5 goal favorite over the Florida Panthers, even though Florida Panthers won, and they are plus 106, and that for the money line. Also, you can bet on baseball. Um, there's college basketball or college baseball is hot right now. So we're gonna take a look at some of the matchups here. North Carolina versus Oklahoma. You have Murray State versus Ole Miss. We're getting to super regionals and getting close to the College World Series. We're gonna take a look at some of the other sports. Obviously, you know that's we have college football coming up. Um, so we're trying to take a look at NCAA football. And right now, let's look at the odds to win the national championship. We have the top five teams. We have Ohio State at plus 440, Texas at plus 460, Georgia at plus 600, Oregon at 680, plus 680, Penn State at plus 690. And if you look all the way down, you have, my Florida Gators at plus 3,800. I think that's a little bit high. Um, yeah, you have K State at plus 8,500. And you look at the Iowa State Cyclones plus 13,000. So I mean, those right there are pretty good odds, right there. So as we did in the previous show, we're gonna look at the bonuses that you can get right now. Here are the bonuses that you can get. If you put in crypto, you have a 100% sports crypto sports welcome bonus. You have with your initial deposit, you have a 50% sports welcome bonus if you load funds um, via card. you have a $200 up to $200 cash bonus, and then you have for casino games you have plus 100% plus 100 for 50% return casino bonus. And here is how you can join my bookie. You can join my bookie by mentioning the Bleav in Iowa State podcast, and of course the promo code is MM50. Once again, the promo code is MM50. So with that being said, thank you guys for listening to and just tuning in to this solo version of the Bleav in Iowa State podcast. Um, as always, thank you guys for being great supporters of this podcast. All you sickos, thank you guys. I promise we will be starting on time for Thursday's show. A few things before we go. We are a top 15 sports podcast right now in the state of Iowa, so thank you, Speed Spot, for that. And as always, you can find us on our five forms of social media. So you can find us on X. I can be found at Sci Tie Guy, and Cody, who will be on Thursday's show, will be um, can be found at Matt Campbell Impersonator, and follow what he's doing right now. Um, and also make sure to find us on our five forms of social media, and that would be X, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. So for Tyler Carter, this is the Bleav in Iowa State podcast. Roll clones, baby.